everyone. Today we are talking about anxiety. So, what is the problem that we want to address? An increasing number of people are feeling frustrated upon attempting to eliminate anxiety by trying to appease their so-called negative thoughts and feeling like they're miserably failing at it. They try different breathing techniques and the old-fashioned distraction practices such as busyness, stuffiness, and pretending that everything is okay. As a psychotherapist, I have a significant number of people who come to my practice upon having tried a number of methods consisting of repressing, suppressing, eliminating, or treating their anxiety. CBT, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy, which has to do with challenging beliefs, is one of the most prevalent models in the industry. However, it does not work for everyone. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people misusing this and other therapeutic models and theories. They say that they've been told that it's all in their minds and they need to just meditate and be positive. A lot of people have this idea that challenging your beliefs means to create positive affirmations that oppose such beliefs. The aftermath? Anxiety is exacerbated when we try to suppress it, repress it, get rid of it. That is not a healthy way to cope. This is counterintuitive. Yet, it's what most people tend to do when they experience unpleasant emotions. In a nutshell, I don't think anxiety is the problem. I believe the problem is how we deal with it. Now, why do we run away from it? Well, sometimes these compulsive self-soothing patterns intended to alleviate uncomfortable feelings could be due to a lack of efficient emotional regulation techniques. When the intensity of these emotions exceeds our perceived capacity to handle them. So, being in the uncertain, in the unknown, causes a lot of distress and pain that we naturally tend to avoid. Another reason to run away from anxiety could be that we don't know how to deal with the potential consequences of taking action. It could also be that we know that we have no resources to deal with those consequences. Therefore, we don't want to take the risks because we are unprepared to take them. Other reasons could be related to self-neglect. There are so many narratives out there suggesting that we are weak if we feel unpleasant emotions, such as fear or anxiety. And because we don't know how to be in the unfamiliar, we rather stay within what is familiar to us. So the go-to mechanism tends to be just like toughen up and say to yourself that, yeah, everything is okay, that I'm going to be okay, and we just keep going. Which doesn't necessarily get better. In most cases, it gets worse, and people end up taking psychiatric medications. Now, imagine what life would be like if we were not able to identify these threats, or if we forgot that these threats exist, and we just go on with our lives like business as usual. We would end up facing those threats unprepared, without the resources we need to deal with them. And we would end up missing out on opportunities, facing unnecessary challenges, de-ranking, losing privileges, or previously acquired positions, or even worse, people who matter to us. Because of our tendency to avoid unpleasant emotions, which generally leads to dysfunctional coping mechanisms such as addictions, compulsive avoidance is what keeps us in our comfort zone because it gives us a pseudo sense of safety. And yes, you will survive. However, if you want to thrive, you'll need to go beyond that. You need to systematically collect data and explore your options. Some of these data will be purposely disregarded. Some of these would serve to get us to the next level. But no data should be by default disregarded without being assessed and evaluated. No by default, as we tend to do, which ironically is precisely what we do when we have anxiety. So in the face of such insight, I found myself needing to develop a different framework to deal with anxiety in a more intuitive way, because I believe that the current therapeutic models are based on the disease model of anxiety, and I do not think anxiety is a disease, but a mechanism that has so many adaptive, progressive, and evolutionary functions that we can leverage to thrive, evolve, and rank up. I think of anxiety as a thriving mechanism. One of the main ideas behind this framework is to consider anxiety as a developmental mechanism, which means that the function of anxiety will help us adapt, interact, cope, and therefore it needs to be embraced. Now, let's explore the benefits of anxiety. I believe anxiety increases our capacity, our ability to identify risks, to put us in a better position, a position in which we are more prepared to face them, mitigate them, eliminate them, or even come to terms with them. Among others, some of the benefits that we can mention have to do with the fact that anxiety can increase our ability to identify potential threats as it sharpens our senses. It can help us direct our attention towards something that could be relevant. It can alert us about potential undesirable consequences. It can remind us about potential threats or opportunities. It can help us prevent unwanted outcomes. It heightens awareness and vigilance. It helps with risk assessment, social adaptation and mating, memory enhancement, preparation and planning, and much more. This is why at the core of this framework, we have a strategy that helps systematically address and navigate those unpleasant emotions, sensations, and situations, but always with our goals in mind and always in line with our values, with our resources. In terms of the framework structure, if we think about it in more detail, if we zoom in into that structure, what we do first is to systematize the data collection method. So the idea behind the theory is that we can collect more relevant data, more relevant information from the environment, from our bodies, meaning from within ourselves, and also from what we perceive from outside sources. Then we can come up with more veracious perceptions of reality and therefore more accurately assess potential risks and opportunities with which we can get more prepared to address them. We can be in a better position to address those challenges. We also have a system to help us find alternative resources and more sophisticated tactics to identify risks. Within a strategic framework, not just isolated tactics, strategies which include our goals, our mission, our purpose, what we want from life. When we do this in a systematic and organized way, we can go to the next stage where we systematically assess and manage the risks. We identify potential case scenarios and the potential consequences of each case scenario. If we look at resources, for example, we explore what values do we have, what resources do we have, what values do we need to let go of, what values do we need to embrace more. The core structure of the framework has to do with identification of existing resources and acquisition of more resources when we don't have enough to address the challenges we are faced with. Within this framework, all these elements are aligned to each other so we can move forward in a sustainable way. This approach not only prevents us from getting stagnated, but also positions us to leverage anxiety and move forward towards what we want to achieve.